Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Evanston. I'm Janelle Brittain, and I'll be your worship associate today. Whether this is your spiritual home or you're newly discovering this community, we're grateful to share this time with you today. We strive to be an inclusive and welcoming community, seeking truth in love and nurturing the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment that through every challenge with each of us, it is us worthy of love, and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. We come together to remember our kinship with each other and to hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention, and to dedicate ourselves more fully to living our shared values. People of all ages are welcome and an important part of our faith community. We are blessed to have children walking right in here in the sanctuary for the first half of every service and the entire service for all of ages once a month. This nest in the front is what we call this area, is our designated area for families with young children, where we have quiet fidget toys and activities. And a little sideline, an adult said to me, "But where's the fidget toys for the adults?" They're out there. Kathy says they're out there, or bring your own. And kid-friendly order of service. Nursery care is available in room 11 every Sunday downstairs. As part of being a welcoming and inclusive community, we have some information posted on the screen that you've been watching that will help orient you to our service. And now, let us settle into our shared time of reflection, celebration, and inspiration. As we begin our worship service, those joining us online are invited to gather your chalice as we are joining in beloved community. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Anne Clough. She is our worship leader today. Her pronouns are she and her. Anne is a seminarian in the Master of Divinity program at Meadville Lombard Theological School. She is originally from Omaha. We forgive you. Anne currently lives in Algonquin, Illinois with her husband, her children, and a very judgmental cat. Welcome to worship. That was beautiful, Gregory. Thank you. We recognize that the Unitarian Church of Evanston resides on land that was recorded as being transferred from the local Potawatomi community to the U.S. government in 1829. Shortly before the Potawatomi in this area were forcefully removed west of the Mississippi River. This land was then sold to white settlers. We remember the ancestors of contemporary African Americans and the individuals, families, and networks of Black people who built up our country's culture and economy, a role forced on them originally by enslavement. We acknowledge the intentional violence that landed in North America on the shores in 1619. It has continued throughout the generations and remains a reality today. These acknowledgments are one small effort toward building long-term solidarity with contemporary communities. We commit ourselves to take what we learn here today and incorporate it into our lives and turn our thoughts into actions. We join in our words of shared commitment. We name these realities with honor for all of the ancestors, respect for our descendants, and gratitude for the land we use as sacred space.
Good morning. Kathy Underwood brought the flowers today in honor of Emery Winfield Baldoff, her grandfather, who brought Unitarian Universalism into her family and whose 135th birthday was yesterday. As she lights our chalice, the symbol of our living tradition, please join in saying the words of the Reverend Deborah Falk, which are on the screen. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundation of freedom, reason, and tolerance, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that visions a world flourishing with equality for all her people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all this within each of us.
Please rise in body or spirit and join in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Before we sing our opening hymn, I invite those online to join in chatting with each other, to say hello, and those in the sanctuary, go greet someone else who you may not know very well just for a moment.
Oh, okay. I invite you to stay standing in body and or spirit and join us in our first hymn, number 145, As Tranquil Streams.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, good to see you all today. So, a while ago, May 5th exactly, I did a worship service about our proposed UU values, which have now been accepted at General Assembly. Yes. Yay! And you may remember Jet Pig. Who remembers Jet Pig? And who remembers what the T stood for? Transformation. I heard it over here. Good job. Brownie points for you. Yes. So, today's story is a Sufi parable called The Tale of the Journeying Stream, and it's about transformation.
That's right, and I am going to be the stream. Kathy is going to be the desert, and you all are going to be the wind. So every time we say wind, I want to hear it. I knew you'd be up to this. Okay. So a stream, from its course in the far-off mountains, passing through every kind of description of countryside, at last reached the sands of the desert. Just as it had crossed every other barrier, the stream tried to cross this one, but found that as fast as it ran into the sand, its waters disappeared. It was convinced, however, that its destiny was to cross the desert, yet there was no way.
Now, a hidden voice coming from the desert itself whispered, "The wind crosses the desert, and so can the stream."
The stream objected that it was dashing itself against the sand and only getting absorbed. If the wind could fly, and this was why it could cross the desert.
By hurtling in your own accustomed way, you cannot get across. You will either disappear or become a marsh. You must allow the wind to carry you over to your destination.
But how could this happen?
By allowing yourself to be absorbed in the wind.
Now, this idea was not acceptable to the stream. After all, it had never been absorbed before, and it didn't want to lose its individuality. And once having lost it, how was one to know if it could ever be regained?
The wind, said the sand, performs this function. It takes up water, carries it over the desert, and then lets it fall again. Falling as rain, the water again becomes a river.
But how do I know that's true?
It is so, and if you do not believe it, you cannot become more than a quagmire, and even that could take many, many years. And it certainly is not the same as a stream.
But can I not remain the same stream that I am today?
You cannot, in either case, remain so, the whisper said. Your essential part is carried away and forms a stream again. You are called what you are even today because you do not know which part of you is the essential one.
When it heard this, certain echoes began to arise in the thoughts of the stream. Dimly, it remembered a state in which it, or part of it, had been held in the arms of the wind. It also remembered, or did it, that this was the real thing, not necessarily the obvious thing to do. Now, I'm gonna need a few helpers. Can I have some wind come up and help the stream get over the desert?
All ages are invited. Hint, hint. Reverend Susan's coming up. Yes.
Can you be the part of the wind? Yes, you can. Can you be part of the wind? Oh, you hold it this way. There you go. You can be part of the wind. And you. And you. Okay. And the stream, oh, go ahead.
The stream raised its vapor into the welcoming arms of the wind, which gently and easily bore it upwards and along, and over, letting it fall softly as soon as it reached the roof of a mountain.
Come this way.
Many miles away.
Over the desert.
Trying to get through my desert. And because it had its doubts, the stream was able to remember and record more strongly in its mind the details of the experience. It reflected, yes, now I have learned my true identity. The end.
Thank you all for helping. You can take your streamers back to your seats with you.
I invite us to settle into a quiet reflection time as we share our joys and sorrows. If you have a joy or sorrow you would like spoken aloud, you may write it in the book that sits to the back there. Right now it's up here, but normally it's back there. Or you may submit it through our Google form off the website. or you may email one of the ministers. We listen to these offerings with tenderness and respect. Let us all quiet our bodies and voices during this sacred time by being together and exhale together. Other that have been for the service today. Jennifer and Matthew are excited to announce the birth of their daughter, Eleanor Ellie Ann Snowden. She was born on Monday morning, June 24th at Lutheran General Hospital. She's born 6 pounds, 2 ounces, and had some respiratory distress at birth. They required 2 nights in the NICU, but she did very well, and both mother and daughter are now home. The Snowdens are overjoyed to have this little girl join the family, and 22-month-old Max loves being a big brother. From Zoe, David, and Elliot Nutt. Zoe and David's cousin and Elliot's niece got married on Father's Day in Ohio. And she announced that she is pregnant too. We are very happy for her and her husband and love them so much. From Renee Gatsis and Erlene Howard. Renee and Erlene are now remembering Renee's cousin Debbie, who died a year ago. May her memory be eternal. And thanks to the youth group, we now have fidgets for all ages, that means adults too, outside at the name tag section at the lobby table. Thank you, Reverend Susan. Right. If there are other joys or sorrows that have been shared in the chat, we will address those or share those next Sunday. Sharing these concerns of the heart is part of the practice of beloved community. Together we expand our celebrations and lessen the burden of grief. You are invited to come forward down the center of the aisle or on either of the side aisles to light a candle for the joys or sorrows that are on your heart. And if you would like a candle brought to you, please raise your hand and someone will bring it to you.
And please join in our final blessing. For these joys we give our thanks. For these sorrows we give our love. My spiritual companions, let us find one another in that space of prayer and meditation where we connect to the very spirit of life itself, the holy, that binds us to each other and to the world around us. In this space, I share these words from the Reverend Tess Baumbacher. Let us make this earth a heaven, right here, right now. Who knows what existence death will bring? Let us create a heaven here on earth where love and truth and justice reign. Let us welcome all at our pearly gates, our freedom table, amid singing and great rejoicing with all our lovely colors. Straight, gay, transgender, bisexual, all the ways of loving each other's bodies. Young, old, fat, thin, variously abled, gentle, cranky, joyous, sorrowing. Let no one feel excluded. Let no one feel alone. May the rich let loose their wealth to rain upon the poor. May the poor share their riches with those too used to money. May we come to venerate our earth, our mother, and tend her with wisdom and compassion. May we make our earth an Eden, a paradise. May no one wish to leave her. May hate and warfare cease to clash in causes too old and tired to name. Religion, nationalism, the false god of gold, deep-rooted ethnic hatreds, may these all disperse and wane, and may we see each other's true selves. May we all dwell together in peace and joy and understanding. Let us make a heaven here on earth before it is too late. Let us make this heaven on earth for each other's sake. Amen. You join in our responsive song.
As we say in our covenant each Sunday, service is our law. UCE is called by our mission, values, and principles to contribute to our community, to form accountable partnerships, and to express gratitude through giving. Today's offering will be shared with Restore Justice Foundation, and Margaret Shackley will talk more about this important partner organization.
We have had a long relationship with Restore Justice and its focus on carceral justice. It began with our alliance with Community Renewal Society and its campaign to protect Black communities of Chicago from the ravages of mass incarceration. As CRS Policy Director Lindsay Hammond moved to Restore Justice, we moved with her. Restore Justice Illinois helps us make the carceral system of Illinois fair, just, and restorative by advocating for fair sentencing and rolling back the punitive sentencing practices of the past, and by developing pathways for formerly incarcerated people to return successfully to their communities. Restore Justice was founded 10 years ago by Joby Cates, alongside a group of loved ones and advocates who believed that they could end life without parole sentences for children and young adults in Illinois. Restore Justice continued with monumental victories for persons in the carceral system. They crafted legislation that created the first parole opportunities in Illinois since the state abolished parole in 1978. And they crafted legislation that would abolish life without parole sentences for children and most people under 21. Joby's largest point of pride in Restore Justice over the last several years is the extent to which key staff roles are now held by people who themselves served extreme prison sentences. Joby says, while I started Restore Justice to change laws and policies, people coming home from prison taught me that it was equally important to change the way they could engage in this work. As Joby Cates now steps down, her successor as Director of Restore Justice is Wendell Robinson. Wendell served more than 25 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections for a conviction at the age of 17. He originally received a sentence of life without parole, but is home today because of court decisions. Wendell initially joined Restore Justice as Joby's apprentice, and he went on to create and lead the Future Leaders Apprenticeship Program to provide other returning citizens support to turn their skills and passions for social good into leadership opportunities. Restore Justice believes that the people who have been directly impacted by the criminal legal system should be in leadership positions, guiding the work to reform that system. Restore Justice vows to continue to fight to bring people home from prison and to continue to support system-impacted people.
Thank you, Margaret, for your work. You may text to give, mail in a check, put cash in the collection bowl today, or give from our website. If you write a check, please indicate in the memo line if your check is for the shared offering or some other giving. The ushers will now come forward to pass the collection bowls down the rows. Please give as generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy.
Our reading this morning is from my dear friend and colleague, the Reverend Juniper Meadows. For anything particularly interesting to happen in this cosmos, things must bump into one another. They must touch and be undone in their becoming something new. Hydrogen and oxygen coming together to make water, sodium and chlorine coming together to make salt, light and water and heat coming together to make life. People coming together to make more people. People coming together to make more community. In such a recognition, one may find themselves at the tail end of a great web of becoming, stretching from the primordial cosmos to the present and on into the abyss of the future. We can know via reason that none of this is permanent. Perhaps something new will become the echo of this reality. I cannot say. What I can say, though, as a minister and as a mortal creature, is that love, more than pure sentimentality, but actual love with all of its creative and destructive potentialities, mirrors this reality more than any supposed self-importance that may be bred by a hyper-individualistic mindset. If our faith is to answer the woundedness of this age, then let us lean into our most common covenant, which proclaims love to be at the center of who we are. Thank you, Gregory. The text arrived at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. for my friend and seminary classmate. "Can I vent to you about something?" it read. Of course. And then the words came tumbling out. A loved one's betrayal, family drama, work challenges, the casual homophobia encountered by being visibly queer in our society, overwhelm, frustration, exhaustion. I typed my question: what does support from me look like for you right now? Her answer: I think I just need someone to listen and tell me I'm not crazy and that life really is just hard sometimes. You're not crazy. Life really is just hard sometimes. I'm sorry you're going through it. And then so much advice and so many suggestions and other unsolicited ideas began to appear under my thumbs. Ooh, it felt good to be needed. Out of all the people, she reached out to me. I felt important. And I like to think of myself as a person with wisdom and good guidance. This is an identity I relish. And then I remembered her answer. I think I just need someone to listen. Backspace, backspace, backspace. Pain and challenge are experienced differently by everyone. And therefore, we experience healing uniquely too. A desire to support the flourishing of all requires that we stop and listen for that range of experiences, hopes, and desires, as varied as the people who hold them in their hearts. But that shift from saying whatever comes to my mind, or sharing my experience, to listening to the request and doing my best to meet it, is more than a change in behavior. It's a full-on transformation of my identity. To go from the person who can see such a clear path forward, which would have been correct and good for me, but maybe not for anyone else, to being the person who is invested in the hopes and desires of another, in offering the help that they need rather than what I want to give. That's to evolve into someone new. And that's scary. Not the least because I really like being right. And I suspect that I'm not the only one, as the titters indicate. As our principles evolve into our sacred values, with love at the center, we are called to be more community-minded, more inclusive, more invested in drawing the circle of love and acceptance ever wider. And that requires that we ask ourselves why we do things the way we do them, and whether there might be a better way, or at the very least, other ways of doing what we do. How could worship be different? Could it include interpretive water dance with tinkly bells? I say yes. How could leadership be different? Or governance? What does it mean to be transformed into communities of accountability when we get down to the nuts and bolts of living our values? Is there more than one way to be right? Of course there is. And to truly accept that fact is to stand on the shifting sand of uncertainty. Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron assures us that groundlessness is the reality and certainty the illusion, but it's an awfully comforting illusion. The practice of radical inclusion begins with the acceptance not only of each other's lived experience, but the meaning that we have each made of our experiences. Meaning making is very personal. Meaning is formed by measuring what happens against our cultural conditioning, our education, our past experiences. Have you ever stood right next to someone and had them make completely different meaning out of what you were experiencing than you did? The pursuit of truth, on the other hand, is this collaborative effort. As we listen to each other's meaning, we begin to put a puzzle together to get a fuller picture of reality. Our tendency is to label our meaning as the truth and others' meanings as wrong. That's not what happened. We argue. We conflate our own narrow slice of meaning and the entirety of truth, and we miss the revelatory potential of the mosaic. To bring it back to our story earlier this morning, we are so identified with the stream that we forget we are water, capable of taking many forms and working together to overcome obstacles. By updating the expression of our values, we call each other into collective visioning of our future as a church and to challenge one another to live into it. We offer each other support and love. We commit to communicating how it is going and to reevaluating and adapting as necessary. We open to the fresh air of healing change to carry us across the desert of stagnation and irrelevance. In their book, What It Takes to Heal, Dr. Prentice Hemphill suggests a path to healing both for ourselves and our society that begins with the liberative imagination. They write, "I don't think healing begins where we think it does, in our doing something. I believe it begins in another realm altogether, the realm of dreams and imagination, the realm that I might also call spirit, a place of potential where possibilities reside, where we retrieve through prayer or dreams visions of ourselves and the world that make us more whole. And with our visions in place, we can realize them through what follows, our commitment and taking the steps to make them reality." But whose vision of the future do we commit to? As soon as we ask that question, the realm of dreams and imagination seems to instantly collapse. They become small and tight, and we grasp onto what we think it must be, and we forcefully reject what they want, ours versus theirs, a field of possibilities narrowed to a dichotomy. We have heard lifted up time and again the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And many have followed that adage with the amendment that we are the ones that must bend it. And I would humbly add today, we are also the ones who must bend. This is not a softening, corrupting, or weakening of our values, but rather an expansion of what it can look like to live into them. It is the curiosity and open-mindedness to listen to the lived experiences and particular fears and needs of others, and to honor them as valid meaning-making. It is to share ours with them as well. It is the flexibility and nimbleness and spirit of adventure required to try on different ways of acting. It is the generosity of spirit and the trust in an abundance of resources that will be necessary to face down the fear of lack and lean into collective flourishing of the many. And last but not least, it is the love that encompasses all we hold dear and nourishes us as we expand to hold more and more. We don't know what we're doing. We only know that what we have been doing is not going to bring us the liberatory future that we long for and know to be possible. And a soul-deep transformation is called for. May our hearts be softened. May our minds be opened that new ways of caring and consoling, thriving and flourishing might emerge. May we find the energy, courage, focus, and love to create the world we envision together. Amen.
Thank you, Anne. That was beautiful thoughts. As we extinguish the chalice, please join in saying the words on the screen by Reverend Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, hymn number 1014, Answering the Call of Love.
Can I get my water dancers to come help me with the final blessing? Can you guys come up and help me? Okay, so a blessing is a wish that we make from our hearts and spirits for good things for everyone. Okay, so if you can use your bells to share the blessing, I will read it. Maybe. May the truth that makes us free, and the hope that never dies, and the love that casts out fear lead us forward together till the day breaks and the shadows flee away. My spiritual companions, go in peace.